Hi. So I keep getting this question about my use of he, she, they in reference to Allah specifically. And I wanted to talk a little bit about God and Allah, which is the Arabic word for God in Islam and in the Quran, and God's gender. And the thing is that in Islam, God is beyond gender. That's because God is essentially beyond human grasp. Unlike the Bible or the Torah, humans are not made in the image of God. Humans are not allowed to depict God because God is so grand and all-encompassing and all-knowing and omnipotent. And there's no anthropomorphic version of God, which is when you give human or animal characteristics to God. So gender and linguistic use of gender actually kind of is limited and doesn't apply. But that said, in the Quran itself, the word huwa, the pronoun huwa, is used, and that's a masculine pronoun. That's just the function of language. That doesn't actually attribute gender to God. And it is actually totally okay to refer to God with other pronouns, knowing that none of them are attributive. That means that none of them actually are specific to God's gender, but instead it's just a way of referencing God in language. There are also other characteristics of the ungraspable nature of God that I want to share. Okay, so this is chapter 2, Surah 2, the cow al-Baqarah, and it is verse 255. And I'm going to read from my Quran instead of look up because TikTok is getting in my way. There is no God but the God, the living, the self-existent, whom neither slumber nor sleep can overtake. To God belongs what is in the heavens and what is on earth. Who intercedes with God except by divine permission? God knows what is before them and what is after them, but they do not encompass anything of that knowledge except as God wills. The throne of God extends over the heavens and the earth, whose maintenance does not weary God, who is the exalted, the powerful. I do love the line after that, but that's not really relevant to the characteristics of God in this instance. I think this verse is really, really interesting because it reminds us that God is not human, right? A lot of Judeo-Christian interpretations of the Bible say that God rested on the seventh day, and that's where the Sabbath came from. The Quran comes in to correct that record of the Torah and the Bible as part of the Abrahamic tradition. And it says that God is not an entity like humans that sleeps or rests. There are other verses in the Quran as well. So this is from Surah 112, chapter 112. It's a super short one that gets shorter as you go towards the end. And this one says, "Say it is God, unique, God the eternal, not begetting or begotten, not having an equal." And this is a direct response to the Christian interpretation of God, where God has his only begotten son, Jesus Christ, right? So Muslims believe in Jesus, but they believe in Jesus the same way that they believe in Muhammad, that he is a messenger of God, a human being, an exalted human being, somebody who was very important and was inspired and carried the message of God. And yet Jesus was not the son of God because God is beyond human grasp. God is not like humans, doesn't have children, doesn't have a partner or a spouse. There's also another verse. This is from Surah 17, chapter 17, and it's verse 111, the very last one, and it says, "And say praise be to God, who has not begotten a son and has no partner in dominion and needs no protector from abasement, extol the greatness of God." So this one also illustrates that God is beyond human grasp and, again, has no partner, no son, no child, and that a lot of human attributes are not attributable to God. And this is one of the reasons that we can't ascribe gender to God. There's an incredible NPR story actually about the idea that Allah is beyond gender in Islam, and I highly recommend listening to it because there's some really wonderful female scholars who talk about the gender of God. this is the story. If you have time and energy, I recommend you Google it and take a listen. It's with one of my favorite hosts, Ari Shapiro, and it addresses a lot of your questions that you might have, including why, despite God being beyond gender, do we refer to him as he in Islam?